Welcome back to the Knife Studio.
Here it is.
My name is Kyle Royer and I'm a master bladesmith.
It looks really cool when you wire wheel it.
Making my first ever sword. So let's embark on this epic edged adventure.
I've got all the fittings sanded to 220 grit for the sword. Since it's about the end of the day here, I'm gonna go ahead and set this handle in epoxy, because right now it fits pretty good, but I want the tang to touch everywhere inside the handle. We're gonna coat the tang and the inside parts of the fittings with Vaseline, and then dump this epoxy I'm mixing up inside the handle, put it onto the sword rather, and assemble it, put it all together, and then once the epoxy starts to set, I'll let it get pretty hard, take the knife apart, clean it all up, put it back together, let the epoxy fully harden, and then yeah, we'll be able to take the handle off and on, and it'll fit on perfectly like a glove every single time.
This is gonna be really messy with this tang that goes all the way through.
Should I cut these on the bandsaw or try to cut them on the chop saw?
Toby Matt can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message after the tone.
Toby Matt can't get to the phone. Please leave a message after the tone.
Go ahead and clean the excess epoxy off here. Normally when I put the handle on, there's not a tang sticking through it this far, but this isn't your normal knife either. Make sure to put it together properly. Clamp her down, get it really tight, and I'll loosen it back up a little bit, and then just snug it, nugget. And then clean off a little bit of the excess, even though you don't really have to. It'll just make it a little easier tomorrow to work with. Yeah. The epoxy will stick to the mammoth ivory and not to the tang if everything goes properly. This thing is looking sweet. That'll do, big, that'll do.
The next day.
Taking the knife apart, we set the handle in epoxy. So now I'm trying to get all the parts off and clean them up. I'm trying to get a paper towel shoved through here just to clean out some of that Vaseline and stuff that's left in there. Got it mostly done. I didn't have any Vaseline in between the guard and the tang. Because of that, some epoxy got shoved down in there and it's like epoxied on big time and will not come off. So I heated it up to like a straw color there on both sides, letting it cool. And then I'll try to take it off again. Should be about cool enough where I can handle it again now. Other than that, yeah, the handle should slide right onto the tang and fit like a tailored glove. This guard is not coming off, so I'm gonna heat it up a little hotter. Normally it doesn't get down into underneath the guard. Now we're burning that stuff out of there. Thing is on there. Try this trick. "20 minutes later. Professional guard removal services. I finally got the handle all cleaned up, got the guard cleaned up, got all the epoxy out of the places I didn't want it to be. Now, I've got the handle bolted to this little fluting jig layout thingy I made. So this is just a little round board with 4 lines going across it. And I've just got a simple little bolt that fits through there. Got it bolted on. I tried to get it squared up pretty closely to where like the 4 sides of the handle are. I try to square it up with 4 of these lines. And that just kind of helps the flutes end on one of the 4 sides instead of in a random place. You don't have to do that, but I really like that when they end like that. So now I'll put it in the lathe and start doing some layout lines. Using the lines on here, we'll put lines all the way across the handle. 8 of them in total. Then we'll take it off this little jig thingy and we'll bring it over here and put a pencil in my height gauge, and we'll draw 8 lines going around the handle this way. So we'll have a grid to then do our layout with. I'll probably use a Sharpie to connect the grid on an angle going from corner to corner on each little square, and that'll give us 8 perfectly spiraled flutes going around the handle. After that, I can start hacking away at this thing with a file. So some of these lines can be perfectly straight in between the corners of the grid, like these ones out here that are in this open, wide, flat area. But the ones going around the tight radius actually have to be slightly curved, because when you're going around that with a file, there's gonna be just this natural, gentle curve that comes in. So I try to draw that in the way that the file will kind of cut it, just so I can follow it better. All I can say is you just gotta do some of it, do it once or twice, and you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. It's okay if they go straight across there, because your file will naturally make you cut them in a curve, but it's just a little bit helpful if you can kind of draw it a little closer to the way the file will cut. Since I've done a bunch of these, I kind of understand how the file is gonna cut. So going around this curve here, I'm actually hanging to this side of the little square, and then once it comes to the middle, it'll hang over to this side of the square here, and it'll kind of meet up there. So like if you look at this little triangle here is smaller than this one. And over here, this side will be a little smaller than this one. I got the Sharpie layout on here, the spirals put on the ivory, and now I've just started to do the initial cuts with the triangular file. I'll go all the way around with the cuts with the triangular file, just get some lines started, and then I'll use a combination of triangular files, this file, and checkering tools to cut the lines deeper, and then to start rounding them off once they're down to the proper depth. It'll probably take me a day or two to get the fluting done on this. A day or 2 or 5, something like that. But for you guys, it's just gonna be a couple minutes of time lapse. I spent 2 days fluting this handle. Right now it's just got a filed finish. I'm gonna try using a Scotch-Brite wheel to clean this up instead of spending another 2 days hand sanding it. I think might possibly work to save some time. Let's try Scotch-Brite wheeling this. I still need to put like a 45-degree angle on the very ends of the handle material so it matches up to the handle fittings. So you can see it's a little smaller than the flutes are, so I'll cut a little bit of a 45-degree angle right there on the flutes so they match up to the handle fittings really well. I'll do that after the handle's all finished up still. Mostly completed. The flutes are done on it, and it was quite a bit of work. This handle's a good little bit longer than my dagger handles, and it's a little wider and everything, so these flutes were just all that much more work, but it came out really, really, really pretty. Really pretty. I'm loving it. So right here where the flutes come up against the front spacer, and also the same where they come up against the pommel, they just end harshly and abruptly, and I don't like the look of that, so I'm gonna draw a little line around where the spacer touches the handle, and then kind of file and then sand a 45-degree angle on the very ends of the flutes, just so they transition down to the spacer properly and transition to the pommel properly. Before I do that though, you can see here I marked out a couple places on the spacer because I need to lightly come in here and grind a tiny, tiny bit off and then re-sand it. Like if I'm looking at it this way, I can see a tiny, tiny, tiny little metal right there at the very bottom of the flute, and I don't like that, so I'm just gonna lightly grind that and re-sand that. And I'm gonna do the same on the pommel. I've gotta do it in a lot more places. The long line I drew on there means I need to take off a little bit more, and then these shorter lines mean I just need to lightly dust the very edge of it a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and put that 45-degree bevel around the ends of the handle, sand it, and buff the ends where we cut into it there, and the handle should be completely done, at least the fossil walrus ivory part of it. Get the ends of the flutes
beveled with a 45-degree angle or so. We've got it marked out right here where the front spacer meets up. I can file right up close to those marks. I'll do this end of the ivory and then flip it around and mark the other end and get that. And then we can call this thing done.
Here it is. The ivory part of the handle is finished. The first piece of anything of the sword to be done. I got it all fit up on here, and man, oh man, I got goosebumps putting this thing on. It's like super, super amazing. The fluting also helped make the handle look a little bit narrower, because I had to oversize the handle a lot for the fluting, and it looked a little bit on the large side for the size of the rest of the handle and everything. But now it's just like, just right, perfect. I love it. It looks so good. The sword is really, really coming along here now. I'm like, oh, I love it so much now. So next I want to break off and do the sheath for the sword, or scabbard. I don't know if you can call it a sheath when it's a sword or not. I have to figure that out. And the reason for that is because I don't want to scratch the blade later on after it's finished. It's not going to matter if we scratch it right now, really. So I think it'd be a good time, even though I really want to see this finished, I think it's good to stop now and do the sheath. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Sheath next, blade finishing and etching, gold inlay, and bluing of Damascus. I gotta clean this thing. This is disgusting. I don't want to put it on my face. I understand you're frustrated. So many unanswered questions. The video left you hanging. You simply need to subscribe so you can get notified of the most recent videos. Thank you for watching.